So let's talk about a couple of good news items, things that didn't get passed.
Yeah.
Okay, that you want to start with the independent party since we're talking about voting elections.
Yeah, that was, I mean, that's sort of kind of in the weeds, but the Democrats wanted to eliminate the independent party from political ballots. It really what it is just positioning of, Republican, Democrat, working family, and independent. And they didn't like the independent because it was helping out the Republic. It was game in the
They
system.
didn't like the name independent.
It was game in the system.
Yeah.
And the independent parties existed in some form or another for how many years? I mean, since I was alive. I mean, didn't John Anderson run as an independent as president back in the 70s?
Because the independent party has existed here, they would have said, well, it's really not fair to have the name independent out there,
That's
so
right.
you can't use the name independent on any ballots, and we were able to stop that.
Yeah,
We were able to
it was
shame them
nonsense.
into.
Yeah, that was nonsense.
Yeah.
The next one's fabulous. I mean,
Yeah, this was an interesting one. They were talking about decreasing drug-free zones. To be honest, I wouldn't make this as big of a political issue here because, frankly, I try to work with both parties. And I understand what they were trying to do with this, because if you go to a place like New Haven and you look at a drug-free zone and how far it is from school, because of the dense population, everywhere you go is a drug-free zone. So at some point it becomes kind of silly because you're not able to really up the penalty somewhere to make it more impactful that you're near a school. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to make those drug-free zones smaller. Now the problem is they tried to do a cookie-cutter approach for everywhere across the state. That's not going to work here in Reading, or that's not going to work in Ridgefield, because we want a bigger drug-free zone. So until they come back and look at this and look at being able to do it for each school, we can't accept that because we need drug-free zones in place.
And my line of thinking is if you're going to err on the side of anything, you err on the side of more drug-free zone than less drug-free zone.
Yeah.
Because the only thing that this would have done, and like they had said, they were saying, well, the entire city of New Haven's an enhanced drug zone. And it's like, so why is that bad? Well, because if you're selling drugs here, if you were in Reading, you would only get this much of a sentence, but if you're in New Haven, you only get that much of a sentence.
I'll actually kind of do a little counterpoint to that because I looked into the issue and I spent some time talking to the New Haven representative about it. Right. And their real issue was that because everything's a drug-free zone, it ends up being kind of a thing that gets plea bargained away, and that they're not really able to do something that's really substantial by being near a school. So it kind of becomes something that's just not really used, and it should be used because if you are doing something near a school, now, like John said, it's a tricky wicket when you're looking at it like this. We would want to err on the side of caution, which was keep it, and we fought very hard for that. Because, I'll be honest, if we can do this another day and we can work something specifically in New Haven, I'm there to work on it with them. I've already talked to the guys about it. I would like to help them out. But we can't afford to do something that's cookie cutter that's going to affect our area here that way.
Well, yeah, and I'm on the Judiciary Committee, and we actually had evidence on this, and that the plea bargaining argument makes some sense, but when it comes to actual practice, the prosecutors would tell you that we're good. We can plea bargain all we want, depending on the conditions on the ground. But Dan's right, so it's funny because this started and it was just going to be a slam dunk. It's one of the times that a vocal minority actually stopped the bill because we got up and said, what do you think, and what do you think, and this is how it's going to work. And it was one of the few times you actually see some of the majority members pick their head up and go, wait a second, is that what the bill says? And it happened throughout the afternoon, and by the end of the day, they pulled the bill. So it's one of the few times that talking too much actually got something done. The next one speaks for itself. We're going to spend $10 million to build a daycare center in a correctional facility that got chopped. And the user energy auction, that was one of these things that people didn't really grab onto, and it would have been sort of after the fact. Remember when we deregulated the energy industry how many years ago? You can buy power from different sources, but if you don't buy power, you can get a standard rate that's basically set by statute and the market. And a lot of people just default to the standard rate. And this is a big issue for AARP, frankly. They didn't want this to happen, and we were able to get it for them. What the state was going to do was grab the standard rate contracts for all these people who've defaulted to the standard rate, securitize them, and sell them off, for a one-time cash revenue, to keep the money, and then all these people who were previously defaulting to the standard rate, well, now are going to be subject to the whims of the market, whether they wanted to or not. And that wasn't the deal that we created when we deregulated the energy industry. You say, if you don't want to get involved in this, you can get the standard rate, and this is set. And even though maybe you spend a little more, it's not going to fluctuate a whole lot.
Yeah. Do you guys get that? I see your eyes looking kind of. Do you understand what that was? Because I'm on the energy committee, so I mean, I can do it in energy very easy. You know when you get all that crap in the mail from Northern that says, please switch to us, we can give you a cheaper rate? The state was gonna turn around and choose a cheaper plan for everybody
Okay,
and pick up the commission for switching you.
I see.
Oh.
That's what they were gonna do.
But it was a one-time.
One-time thing.
And after that, you were just, you know.
Yeah, and then you could choose later to switch it back or whatever. But they were literally gonna make you guys all, switch you automatically, all these other plans, and they were gonna get the commission
Yeah.
for doing it.
Well, but but the best part is the commission was actually gonna be by
Yeah.
you remember when we used to securitize debt, you know, in mortgages and that got us sold? Doesn't that sound funny? I remember that, but that didn't work out so great. We were gonna do that with the energy stuff, so.
Exactly.
We stopped that.
So, moving on,
Inform,
there were some,
pool
bipartisan agreements,
pool safety.
education reforms, the hurricane response bills. All those were very bipartisan, small business express programs. Those are really good, actually. You know, some of our folks in the local area have been able to take advantage of those.
Yep.
The energy tax credits, the early release program. Now, that's a good one. You want to spend that?
Yeah, that's, the 2 years ago, in the budget bill, actually, the majority, the governor, actually forced through this early release program without it ever really being vetted through a committee, a public hearing, anything else. That basically said, all right, we're gonna start releasing prisoners early to save money. Just gonna start releasing them early. And they had sort of some loosey-goosey formula that, you know, the governor's office cooked up, and it just got jammed through the legislature. Well, wouldn't you know, A, you know, people wanted to be heard. B, there's actually a constitutional right in the state of Connecticut for victims. As a victim's advocate, she stood up, actually got fired for standing up for victims' rights. But see, it didn't work, because what ended up happening by mechanical release of some of these guys, what ended up happening is a couple of guys got released early, and ended up, guess what, they killed a couple of people, because these are bad people that probably shouldn't have got out early. So, as part of that big gun bill, school security, you know, mental health package, part of that, you know, part of the horse trading, was we were able to roll back some of this early release program to say you at least have to serve 85% of your sentence before you can be eligible for this program. You know, that was you know, that was a good get, so to speak. Yeah, and the rest of the stuff, like yeah, Dan mentioned, we're doing energy. We increased sex trafficking laws, much to, you know, I didn't realize this, that the Berlin Turnpike is actually somewhat renowned for moving in sex trafficking, you know, but underage prostitution. So there are a lot of bad things going on there, and this, it kind of refocused on it, created a task force, spent some more money on it, and more importantly, increased the fines and the visibility of it. So it's like, you shine the spotlight on it, things go away. You know, this last page, this is sort of more or less the list of lasts, what some people call it. You know, when I mentioned when we started, you know, the Connecticut is ranked at the bottom or near the bottom of a whole bunch of business metrics. Well, here's a list of some of them. You know, per capita state and local tax burden as a percentage of income, we're the third highest in the country. Worst state for business, property tax burden. You know, number one, number one is the worst. Ranked 7 by Forbes, the state with the highest number of residents fleeing our state. Our bond rating just got downgraded by Phipps, I think, a couple of months ago. Talking about some of the stuff in here, how we're spending more. We have a $70 billion unfunded pension liability. It's pension and healthcare benefits. That, you know, the governor, rightfully so, he got it, says we got to start addressing this, and hasn't quite lived up to what he said he was going to do. So, you know, the path to the goal line is hard and easy all at the same time. It's spend less.
The one thing that happened this year that is different from other budget years, and there was a lot of controversy about it, Republicans did not put out a whole new budget. Like we've done every other year, we always come out with a Republican budget, we put it out there, it gets shot down. The problem is, every year we do that, we base it on their budget, and we tweak it and inform it and change it. Frankly, this year we were in so much trouble, and their budget was so bad, all we could do is give general ideas. We say, hey, we need to do this. Didn't come out with a whole new budget, but we gave them ideas of what we should be doing. The point is, we need to start over. Our path forward in this is actually to tear apart the whole budget as it stands and really start over from the beginning. And you know, those are the kinds of things we'll be talking about as we go into the next session.